Hey guys, I'm Ray and we are streaming blacksmithing. Let me get my headphones on so I can actually hear myself and I don't have to scream quite as hard. All right. Welcome to the stream, everybody. It is Friday. Yay! Weekend's coming up. And, I'm pretty happy that the weekend's coming up. This week has been very trying. It's been very exhausting. Corbin says, not bad. Just got done getting a tire change at Costco. Boring hour-and-a-half wait. Ooh, yeah, tire changes, or I guess, getting new tires is kind of annoying. You're just sitting there doing nothing unless there's stuff on your phone you're watching or, shopping or whatever. So hopefully you found something to occupy your time while you're waiting for your tires. So today we are going to be continuing to work on our raising hammer. So I just started the forge and I put the piece of stock inside there to get it started heating up. Today I figured we would attempt to put the propane tank in the yellow bucket with some water. It's probably not all, or it's about halfway up the yellow bucket, so it's probably not high enough to really make that big of a difference, but we're gonna kind of experiment a little bit. I resisted the urge to impulse shop. YouTube to the rescue, right? YouTube is awesome. I mean, you can learn things on YouTube. You can, find entertainment on YouTube, just funny, stupid things. And, YouTube's great, great entertainment. So today we are going to be getting started punching in the eye hole on our hammer. So I have my punch, and it's a little wobbly today because it's super cold and the wood is kind of moving around. So it's a little bit lower on the handle than it has been in the past, but I think that's all right. We'll get a good clean hole. So when the piece of stock was cold, I kind of took a look at the first section, or the first couple heats that we did on Wednesday, kind of establishing where the eye hole was going to be, and they're actually relatively lined up. So while our center punch marks were a little bit off, we were able to fix and correct the punch marks that we made with our punch. So we should get a really nice and straight eye for this hammer, which is really exciting. Really exciting. That means I don't have to grind out the eye or anything. So we've got an ad starting in about a minute, and we've got a little bit of time before our steel heats up. So that's good. Yeah. So while I'm really excited that it's Friday, I think this weekend's going to be super duper busy for me again. I've got to finish up doing some more bells for presents for family and friends. And if you are one of my family and friends and are watching this, forget I said that. And then I also needed to look into making a thinner set of rounded die for the press. So we've got some really fat half round dies. I want to make some skinnier fullering dies so that we can use them on this hammer to kind of separate the eye from the heads of this hammer, make it a little bit more pretty, a little bit more balanced. The other thing that I got to do this weekend is continuing to work on making the basement shop a little bit more functional. There's a few more tools that I need to move around, and hopefully I can get all of that done without, going too overboard and overdoing it. So we'll see how far and how much of that I can get done. It may end up that I am doing jingle bells for several days over the next couple of weeks before I go and take my trips. But yeah, So we are currently within an ad break, and I don't know. It's an ad break. Ad breaks are ad breaks. It's kind of on the cooler side today. It's just under 30 degrees, which is just under freezing Fahrenheit. And so I have the heater on over here, but it's still like I was a little bit late in setting things up today, so it's still kind of on the cooler side today. So hopefully it starts warming up pretty quickly. I'm not to the point where I'm shivering, but I am pretty cold out here. At least you can't see my breath. But that's all right. I have a lot more breath than I did even Wednesday. So we should be able to get a little bit more, normal work done today. I don't think I'll have to sit nearly as long. So that's really good. I'm pretty excited about that. Once that adrenaline gets going, and, I'll start to feel even more better. More better? I don't think that's the right word, but, whatever. Today my brain is just a little bit on the slower side. I kind of took a break from editing today because I've been super hard working on editing the next few weeks. I'm starting to work on the last video of the year already, and that's like 3 or 4 weeks away or something like that. That's kind of crazy how long how much of a backlog I have, and how I'm working through it. So I took a little bit of a break. I think I can afford a little bit of brain refresh, but I'm a little bit, much mo better. But I'm still a little bit on the, slow side. I was just kind of social media scrolling. I need to stop doing that though, because it just gets to this point where I have to be really careful about how I cull my social media, because it's so easy to get into this habit of like doom scrolling and just like looking at everything that's going on in the world and just being like, there's nothing happy going on. And I mean, there's so much happy things going on in my life right now. I mean, with the stream and everything that's going into that, and then being able to see my family after several months of not being able to see them. And, there's just a lot of good going on in my life, in my personal life. As a whole, the world is pretty crazy right now, but it is what it is, You got to take what you can get, Take those little things and be happy about them, or make little happinesses in your life. So I'm trying to. That's part of the reason why I'm out here, making fun and having those little moments of joy. So I'm glad for you guys, and I'm glad to be out here. So hopefully it'll like turn my negativity into some positivity today. We have a dull red color on our steel, so a few more minutes and we'll get some good heat going, so we can get started punching. My goal is to get to the point where we have punched the eye all the way through. I'd like to see the plug come out today. Now, there is a chance that it'll come out really early on Monday's stream, but I'm hoping, my goal is to get that out today, because there isn't as much to go through as there was with our axe or with our hammer that we've punched previously. So fingers crossed we can get this eye hole punched in there. And that actually makes it into a hammer, because it's just a block of steel that you can stick a handle on, right? I'm glad to hear that life is going well. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my own personal, immediate life, the stuff that I interact with on a daily basis, that's going awesome, right? The community is growing, the channels are growing. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from the community, and I'm having a lot of fun. It's been very worth all of the effort that I've put into this. But yeah, I just look outside of my little immediate little box of life, and things are, that's when things start to like get a little bit scary. So it's got to be a balance, right? I want to be informed about what's going on, but I also don't want it to overwhelm me. And so I think that is where this channel comes in. Like, this is why we do not allow politics or religion within like chat channels and things like that, because it is just so scary outside of our little community. And I want a break, I think everyone deserves a break. We can put all that down and have some fun for 2.5 hours every other day or so, All right, we're starting to get some more heat. I'm pretty excited. Nice orange. I'm gonna flip this around so that we can get a more even heat. Just like so. But yeah. Hey, dear noobs. Welcome in. Hey, hope you're doing good. A good old eye punch day, eh? Yes. We're gonna punch people in the eye, leave some black eyes. Except that's not really what we're doing today. We are going to be using this punch, and we're gonna punch a hole in a hammer. But yeah, so it should be fun today. And like I said, my goal is to finish this hole and get it all the way through, nice and straight. So that I hope I can get that done today. Hey Yankee, welcome to the stream. 3 hours of a late raid happens. I mean, sometimes it is 3 hours as opposed to 2.5. It depends on how I'm feeling and how things are going. If I get really, really close to finishing my goal, but I haven't quite made it in the 2.5 hours, I might go 3. We'll see. But yeah. Fancy, oh hey, there's Yankee. How you doing, bud? Yep. We've got a really good community here, and I'm grateful for all of you guys, so I'm glad you're here. Let's see, how we doing? Ooh, we've got a nice light, or I guess a nice dark orange color all the way through our steel. So we'll need to make it, or let it soak in there a little bit so that we don't end up with some weirdness going on. So yeah. What else is happening? So like I said, I've been working really, really hard on editing this whole week, and like I said, I'm finally working on the last video of the year, and that's crazy to me. I mean, when I started like a year ago, I did not think that I would be like, editing that far in advance, The first couple videos, I don't know why the auto mod caught that, Yankee. That's so weird. I feel like Turkish is one of those like words that you use so that you don't use a bad word. Yes, that's what the auto mod like it caught that word. So I don't know why. It's kind of weird, but it's all right. I got it. British people use it, I guess. So yeah. So Mayberry. I thought so too. It just seems so vanilla and like innocuous, but I don't know. Maybe it's just there's another country where it is less innocuous on. So if it is offensive, I apologize for those of you who are in other countries where it might be offensive too. But yeah. But as far as I know, it's a relatively mild word. It's like saying, dang it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this new year and all of the new projects that we're going to get into over, yeah, aw shucks, over the new year. So I'm like last year at this time, I promised you guys that I would make an axe. And we're not completely finished with that axe because I still have to handle it. But we did actually make an axe head. We succeeded in making an axe head, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really happy. We made a few mistakes, you know, especially with the folded over axe. But you know, we're gonna have an axe to hang up on the project wall, and that's really exciting. So this year, my goal for next summer is to do a little bit of Damascus steel. I don't necessarily think that we're going to get to the point where we're doing sharps with that Damascus, but I would like to at least by the end of, you know, next summer, make a block of Damascus steel. I don't necessarily know what we're going to do with that block of steel, but my goal, just like I made that goal last year at this time to make an axe head, our goal for next year is to come out with a block of Damascus steel. So that means that over the spring, I've got to go out and we've got to do a little bit more forge weld practicing. And we've got to come up with I got to get more comfortable with forge welding, and you know, I gotta get the material and put it together. We gotta figure out how that works, and so hopefully in the fall we'll be able to make that Damascus into something. But we're definitely going to make at least a brick of Damascus. So other things that I like to do is I'd like to start our set of armor. Like I said, I'm planning on doing that very quickly out the gate. We may not do it the first or like the last weekend of December, and we may delay it till the first week in January. But that is a thing that I want to do. You can try forge welding a new bit on. I will. I definitely will. That is another one of those goals that I have with my practicing forge welding. Once I get comfy enough with it, what we're going to do is we're going to grind out the bit that I welded with a machine weld and pull that out. We're going to clean up the folded over axe, and we're going to weld a new bit in there. That is what we are going to do. Ooh, sounds like a collab video. Well, I mean, that's up to Yankee, you know. If I can get that bit welded in and that folded axe together, I mean, we can talk about it. I've got a P.O. box, and, you know, we can send things back and forth if we need to, if we want to. I don't think that's going to happen until probably the spring, just because right now I don't have a flume for my coal forge, and it's too cold to do it outside until it gets warm again. However, I did actually see a video on YouTube today of a simple looking flume that I want to try. So it's almost like just a flume or a fluted out box. So it's like 3 pieces of sheet steel that kind of come out at an angle, kind of like so. And there's a top and then 2 sides, and it goes over your fire pot. And then at the back end, you put a dryer vent, like not one of the like flexi dryer vents, but like one of those solid dryer vents. It's about yay big around, but it's like a pipe and it just goes up. And the one I saw was really short. Ordinarily, I would just assume that they'd have to be tall in order to get that backdraft up the pipe. But these ones were really, really short, and they were all connected over a horizontal pipe. So we'll see how long I can, or I guess how short I can make my flume. What I want to do is have it go out the top of my window, because I can't really drill into the ceiling because there's an attic in this garage, and so I don't really want to have to mess with the stuff up there. So if I can get that, or if I can get a flume built and take a look at that, we might be able to do a little bit of coal forging in this shop. So we'll see how well that goes. Hey, Mahalo, welcome to the stream. Let's take a look at our steel. It's starting to get pretty nice. I think I'm gonna flip it over again. It's a nice bright orange now, so we're getting real close to the point where we can start working it. Is there some kind of convection fan in the oven to mix the heat around? In this guy? So for this forge, there is a flame vortex and it goes around and around and around, and that's how it gets really nice and hot. So normally, I mean, it'll do that anyway, but I've actually designed this forge specifically so that it will do that more than a square forge would, because this is a hexagonal forge. So the inside has angles, and as the flame shoots in there, it will refract off of those angles and kind of start vortexing around. So yeah, it is. There's like a little fire tornado going on in there, and that's how it gets really nice and hot. So you can kind of see that as it vortexes out, it'll start flowing out this direction towards the bottom, like so. So it's a really good design for that fire vortex, but I only have one burner attached to it. So if it had two burners, it'd be even more efficient and a lot better. I used to run round ones, like round forges, and they are specifically designed to get that fire vortex going really well. But somebody gave me a whole bunch of free fire bricks, and so I wanted to make my forge out of the free fire bricks, because I can speak today, that they gave me. So I was like, okay, these are like, you know, regular size bricks, and so I was like, how can I make that a little bit more efficient with that fire tornado? So I cut them at 60-degree angles, and I made a hexagon out of them. So it is actually lined inside because they're really crumbly. So when I cut them at that angle, they don't fit perfectly. So I used like the refractory cement to kind of line this forge and make sure that none of the fire shoots out. Fire tornado. Sounds like an X-Men superpower. Yes. It does. I love making stuff. Wish I had a real shop. If you live in a larger city or near a larger city, there are a lot of places that are like maker spaces. It's kind of the thing that people do these days. I think in like 2018, it was a little bit more popular, but they'll like put it's like a business, and you kind of pay like a monthly fee, and you can go in and you can use like woodworking tools, metalworking tools, CNC, all kinds of stuff, like 3D printers. There's one in St. Louis, and it's like $125 a month or something like that, which isn't bad if you're like a professional artist. Some of it can be a little bit pricey, but you know, and like I said, most of the time they're in larger cities. So if you're like rural, it would be very much harder to get to a maker space. But they are around, you know. You might check one out, see if you can find one. All right, we finally got a nice bright color. So let's start. Get our first heat in. We are rotating this piece every hit. So so that we can kind of correct it and make sure that it's going in there straight. If I have it at an angle, you know, I want to make sure that I can correct it, make sure it's nice and centered. All right, I'm gonna put this back in the fire. I'm probably gonna be a little bit slower at this in the beginning because I really want to establish these guys so you can kind of see that hole starting and that's that hole on that side. So they're both pretty even now. So we've got good starts. Hopefully we'll be able to go through this relatively fast. Oh yeah, I'm a member of the local makerspace. Trouble is time, and I have to set up and clean up after myself each time, which just eats more time. That is very true, you know. If you only got so many hours in a day, you know, when you got like half days, it's like an hour to clean up and an hour to put or, you know, pull things out. And that just eats up a lot of time, you know. You only got a couple hours to work. See, I'm lucky. I have my own space that I get to work, and I get to leave things exactly as I left them. So I have this habit where what I'll do is I will clean my shop in between projects, right? So to be like really as clean as I can, you know, reasonably manage, and then I will start a new project. Every time I start a new project, when I get done for the day, I just leave it exactly as I had it. That way, it you know, I don't have to get things out again, and I don't have to put things away again. But that only works when you are the only artist using a space. Define advantage for your own, or definite advantage for your own space. It's always a cozy mess, right? Exactly. You know, like I said, I just like when I'm done, I just pull the cameras and the laptop and I go in the house, you know, turn off my lights. And then it takes me 15 minutes to pull everything out and 15 minutes to clean up, you know, whereas sometimes it takes a lot more time than that if you have multiple artists working in a space, you know, because you never know who's going to need what tool next, you know. Unfunded 010, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream, welcome to the community. I hope you're having fun. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do for this piece is every heat, I'll probably try and flip the piece so that we're coming at it in the middle, or I guess so that we'll meet in the middle, and then we'll just be able to punch the plug out. As we start getting deeper and deeper, I have a jar of powdered coal that we're going to use as a lubrication so that we don't end up getting our punch stuck in the hammer. No, I'm happy just to find this. Hell yeah. Yeah, well, welcome to the stream. I do stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2:30 Eastern US time. And I stream for about 2.5 to 3 hours every session. And then what I do is I'll take all of our streams and I kind of condense them into project overviews that I post over on my YouTube channel. And that is the same, or it's under the same username. Oh, I guess Nightbot just posted my YouTube link. I need to change my links on Nightbot because I never use my my Facebook or my Instagram. Hey Bluesy, welcome to the stream. Walks in wearing boxing gloves. Okay, whose eye needs punching? I know, right? Punch, punch, punch. Yep, this hammer needs its eye punched. I'm expecting a black eye. Could you not use the press and a jig to punch the hole quicker and easier? Yes, I could, but I don't have a jig to do that right now. Alex Steele has a really amazing like jig that he uses with a press, not like this press, but like a heavier duty press. But that's how he did his industrial like production of his hammers when he was selling them. And so I want to make one. I just have not gotten around to it. So we're just doing it by hand this time. It's not that much material to get through. I think we're at like 1.5 inches thick, so it's not too bad. We should be able to get it all the way through today. Evening sandwich, evening. Interesting, a black eye in English is a blue eye in German. See, I think a blue eye is a better descriptor of the bruised eye, you know? Because usually it looks blue when you first get them, and then as they age, it turns like green and black. So I guess green and yellow. So I just don't feel like black is a good descriptor, you know, for a bruised eye socket. All right, I got an ad starting in about 2 minutes, and yellow. Yes, yellow. So I'm gonna see if I can't beat the ad and finish my heat before. So let's do that. I want to make sure that we get lots of heats in today. All right, we're a little on the cooler side. Whoops, that's totally, there we go. That should work pretty well. It helps when you put your tools in the correct hands, you know? Oops, drop forged. Let me put this down so I can pick this up. Woo! Hot, hot. Let's move that up so I can see what the comments. Yeah, Alex has some big stuff. I'm sure there's some sweet finds at the local auctions too. I've also been fond of finding things in the scrapyard. Oh man, I love finding things in the scrapyard. So many good tools, stuff that can get put right back into production if you just like put a little bit of effort into them. And you know, they're cheap and readily available. I always love seeing your intro, Bluesy. I love seeing your intro. It's such a great announcement that you have arrived, you know? Ungrunt D Hollow, thank you so much for that follow. Ooh, that rhymed. I was a poet, and maybe I did know it that time. I have the setup for that. I love to collect things from the scrapyard as well. Yes. Oh, I don't have the setup for that. Yeah, like I said, I love the scrapyard. It's so cool, and you can, you know, you never know what you're gonna find, you know. Yep, people are so quick to toss stuff and often over routine maintenance. Yeah, this guy, when I bought it, it was covered in rust, and so I ran it through my grinders, right? So I started with like, you know, the like 60 grit grinder wheel, and I took it all the way to the Scotch-Brite, and it's not perfect. There's some dings in it, but it's still functional. It works really well. Oh, I have a scrapyard of tractor parts and such. I often go in there to get some things for my tractors. All farmers do. Yeah, they do. I mean, you can't afford to buy new every single time. All right, we are now in the middle of an ad break, so I'm not going to really talk about anything that is like super important because, you know. What I will do though is probably change the angle on the camera. We got a lot of anvil and a lot less hammer. So let's see if pushing this up gives us a little bit of both. There we go. Actually, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I might actually go over this direction over here and completely change the angle so that you guys are looking at the other side of the anvil. Let's pull this back here. There we go. We're nice and in focus now. You can totally see the yellow bucket. Do picture-in-picture and mute the ad and bring this feed up. Boom, no more ads. Yeah. Oh, wow. We have reached our follower goal. 440 followers. Thank you so much. I don't know how to pronounce that. Gidjusy797. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Welcome, welcome. Why bucket? So as the propane tank starts to get lower and lower as we use the propane, the pressure rapidly reduces and it actually ends up freezing the propane in the bottom of the tank. And so we as a community think that if we submerge the bottom in water, that it'll increase the time before it freezes. So that's what we're trying today. Basic salad sandwich, and in Dutch it is blue eye as well, although at times it's purple, yellow, or green. Yeah. All right, Corwin, drive safe if you're driving. I think that's why you're lurking. Thanks for the lurk. All right. Let's get some heat on here. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Increasing the thermal mass, yes. That's what we're doing. Is that, can we see that? I think that's an okay angle. My picture-in-picture might be a little bit weird on this one, so I apologize if it is. Whoops, tipped that one. Not cool. All right. Back in the heat. All right. If I move that down onto the floor, there is a little bit of a little line there in that center area. And I'm wondering if it's actually a crack. It doesn't go amazingly deep. I think it'll be all right. Neat sharing of knowledge. I try. One of my goals is to share, blacksmithing as a discipline to the community at large, or I guess to the world. I myself am not an expert at blacksmithing by any means. I'm not a master. I'm not even really at a journeyman level. I'm still relatively beginner. But I can share what I do know, and it helps reinforce what I know in my own brain. And then I have a lot of connections in the blacksmithing world. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a lot of interviews with different artists and different associations. So my goal is to give you guys a taste, wet your lips a little bit, and then show you the world of masters so that you can, learn from somebody who knows a little bit more than me. German comes from Dutch, but then English is also a language of the same lingua family. Yes, it is. Do Smiths have magnetic particle testing while working on a hot piece? I don't. I don't think we do. I don't know. Because I think, if I remember correctly, because the molecules are as the piece heats up, because the molecules are moving faster and that's why they're heating up, I don't think that a hot piece of metal is magnetic. We can test that theory because I have a few magnets on my anvil, but I'm pretty sure a hot piece of steel is not magnetic. In theory, it works, and some do, but most Smiths look at coloring. Yes. Oh, okay. Is it like a thermometer for temperature? Is that what that is? MPT testing? I mean, I look at the color that the piece is, and I can tell within a reasonable amount of variance how hot something is. And I learn over time, like, when to put it back in and when to take it out of the forge. So, yeah, and I mean, you can actually do a lot of, like, tempering stuff by looking at the color that the metal turns. So when I go to temper this piece of steel, this is 4140. After I have like finished making it and I'm ready to like do my heat treatment and tempering, what the color that I'm looking for when I bring back that softness is a straw yellow, and that kind of is the right temperature. I used to know the exact temperature, but I can't. I don't know anymore. It's been so long since I've like actually looked it up, like the exact temperature. But it's just, you get used to the colors. So when I'm looking inside of the forge and kind of judging if I can take it out or put it back into the forge, what I'm actually looking for is I'm looking for the steel to match the color of the inside of the forge. So like the forge bricks, they have a specific color. And when the piece of steel matches that color, I know that the temperature matches. MPT is something I used to do when I used to do testing, non-destructive testing. One method to impact welds was to apply light metal particles to a surface by adding a magnetic field around to test area the small particles to align to help you see the small cracks easier. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Normally I test for cracks by running a pin over it, or like a thin like a knife blade or something, and if it catches, I know there's a crack. All right, let's do another heat. I can also usually tell when there is a crack in a piece like this if it is not the same color as everything else. All right, so we're gonna put this on this side this time. I think that's actually the same side, but it's a little shallower. All right, so let's stop here for a moment, and we're gonna take a look at the top of this. You can kind of see on this side that the piece is starting to bulge out a little bit, but it's more straight on this side. So that is indicative of an uneven heat, or if the punch isn't going through evenly. So if this side is thinner than this side, or I guess the top side. So I gotta pay attention to that. Much attention. So we're gonna turn this way. I think this side is starting to punch that direction, so really the solution is to keep on keeping, because I'm tilting the punch. And I think that's what's happening. Whoops. I'm a farmer. I rarely have a magnet in the middle of a field, but I can see the colors when welding stuff. Naturally, farming is its own level of get her done, and I love it. When I inspect oil derricks, we would see cracks form in the heat affected zones, even from cooling after a well. This is just a tangential conversation from the eye-punching focus of today. I mean, it is a little tangential, but it's sort of related, you know? I did mention that I think there's a crack in it, or in the block of steel. Like I said, I don't think it's amazingly deep. I think it can just be like ground down, and so I'm not terribly worried about it. In fact, if I wanted to, I could hot rasp it, and it would clean it up real easy. I don't know where my rasp is, though, so that's kind of why I haven't really thought about it. All right, I'm going to grab my coal dust, put it over here so that it's ready when I need it. Pretty exciting. So making hammers has always been one of my bucket list projects since I started blacksmithing. And I'm pretty excited that I'm doing a silversmithing hammer as opposed to a blacksmithing hammer. My first hammer was a blacksmithing hammer, and I feel that's appropriate because, you know, I'm blacksmithing right now. But I think that making a really pretty silversmithing hammer makes something inside of me just like gleeful or really happy. So I'm super excited for this project. True. Give a farmer a baling twine, baling wire, pliers, and duct tape, and we can fix just about anything. I mean, yeah, you guys are the ultimate MacGyvers. And I know that when I say MacGyver, it's like it's completely, you know, downplaying the work that you guys do, because I mean, MacGyver is, you know, the Richard Dean Anderson character from that TV show in the 80s. And I mean, he was good, but you guys are pretty darn good. Farmers. I miss the farm. Doing so much with so little for so long can do the impossible with nothing, right? And I mean, the job that farmers do is not for the faint of heart, you know? It's like, without you guys, nobody would eat. You know, nobody would be wearing clothes. I mean, you know, y'all grow the food and, you know, the fibers and, you know, without, yeah, we'd all be cold and hungry. I feel like these days, though, that the independent farmers are starting to really like, um, they're starting to go extinct a bit, at least here in the United States. Um, a lot of local farmers have actually been like selling their land to corporate farmers, and so you know corporations are starting to run the farms. And I'm not necessarily sure if that's the best thing or not. You know, it's like yeah, they're running it in a corporate fashion, but it's like farmers, like generations of knowledge. You know, I feel like you can't really replicate that in a corporate setting. Hey, can you forage and hunt? I mean, I personally cannot, right? My bow is just I'm not accurate enough to hunt, you know? True, nobody wants to get that deep in debt. I know. It's like the seed and all of the you know fertilizer and stuff that people or in the machines that are used to get the volume of food that we require to like make any money at all is like the startup cost is so insane. So I don't know, you know. I think one of these days though, you know, we're really gonna need to bring back the individual farmers, you know. Okay. The family farmers. All right, let's do another heat. I've changed the angle just a little bit, just to give us a little bit of variety. If you can't see something from one angle, you might be able to see it from another. Ah, we flipped her. More heat, more heat. If you are a second or a third or such generation of farmers, you don't need that much debt. But when you know how hard you need to work, and you go, if F that, I want to be home and awake with my family for more than 10 minutes a day during harvest. I mean, it is so much effort and so much work. I mean, there's a reason that, you know, the people who do farming work do it. You know, you have to have a special temperament. Not everybody has the grit in order to do it, I feel like. I think that's probably as far as I'll go because, yeah. Unfortunately, there are so many topics in the United States that have become relatively politicized. So I will stop my train of thought there. In the EU, farmers get tons of subsidies. Agricultural subsidies are one of the largest items in the EU budget. I mean, that's great. I mean, you need farmers. You can't just you can't feed your country without farmers, My friend lost the 200-plus-year-old farm because the big city just kept pushing the taxes up and they had to sell. The family walked away with like 18 million, but what a loss. I mean, yeah, here in the United States, it's in the Midwest, there are so many farmers that have, they're not huge farms. They're like smaller farmers, but it's so much easier and better for them to sell to contractors who develop subdivisions where the fields used to be. There are so many subdivisions that were built within the last 20 years that used to be farmland, and we're losing all of this farmland. True, but if we did not, nobody would be able to buy food. I mean, I think that's the case. Farming is an important occupation, and it needs to be subsidized by the government, or it won't be able to function. We won't be able to buy groceries. Hey, Bubba. This is Hey Ray Bay. Man, when I was a kid, so my real name is Ray, just Ray, R-A-E. My middle name is Lynn, so if you wanted to increase my name, it'd be Ray Lynn. But that's my middle name. Anyway, when I was a kid, all of the kids would just go around and be like, Ray Bay Day Play, and they'd go through the entire alphabet and rhyme my name with everything. I just remember kids running around and just rhyming my name with as much stuff as they could. They thought it was funny, and I was like, well, I don't, it wasn't really being made fun of necessarily, but it was kind of annoying after a while. I love when Junkyard Digs does the farming challenge, finding discarded equipment and getting it running and see if they can grow small crop. So good. I don't think I've seen that show. I don't have cable anymore, so a lot of the Discovery shows that I used to catch up with that were I used to go out of my way to find, I just haven't been able to see it or to find them anymore. Dr. Optimal, hi, finally got something. I missed it. A few minutes. Work's been crazy. How's the metal smacking going? It's doing pretty well. Yeah. We're getting some progress made. We have started punching in the hole. We're a couple millimeters in either direction, so we're going to kind of meet in the middle. Junkyard Dogs is just on YouTube, so worth it. All right, well, I will have to look them up. The people who could wear Carhartt don't wear Carhartt. Oh, who should wear Carhartt. That's because Carhartt is a little bit on the expensive side. That's why I only wear a little bit of Carhartt. I do wear knockoff Carhartt a lot, though. All right, let's do another heat. Hey, Jack. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. Oh, actually, I don't have to adult anymore. Woohoo! Yeah, I can't afford Carhartt. It is so expensive. I feel like Carhartt is one of those things that's been gentrified, Like chicken wings. That stuff, or chicken wings used to be so cheap, and now they're super expensive because they're rich people food, or rich people got a hold of them and gentrified them. Carhartt became fashionable. Woo! Rah. Drop forged. Every time I do these big guys, I always end up dropping them a million times. I got an ad starting soon and it's covering up everybody's comments. I got tired of wearing out my coats and ripping them on fences, so I finally bought a Carhartt coat, but that's the only Carhartt I own. Yeah. Togs are never right, just good enough, right? That's why you can't have carpet in the shop. I mean, yeah. See, I got to be a little bit on the careful side, though, because the tiles in this shop have asbestos in them. And the inspector told us that we could just pave over it with, like, concrete, and then we wouldn't have to do, like, remediation for it. But I don't know. It seems to work all right. It doesn't set the floor on fire or anything. So then what's the new affordable Carhartt? I feel bad getting something pricey when I want to grind or weld. So the one that I have is Baur, B-A-U-R. I get it at the local farm supply store. I mean, it would be content if I had a carpet and I was like forging in the carpet. I had a coat before. I got the Carhartt that was torn so badly. I called it my bear coat and joked I was attacked by a bear. Yeah, so my coat, like, I mean, I'm not wearing my coat right now. I'm doing 2 layers. I've got this flannel that I got for free for shilling, you know, flannel go. It's got this nice like layer inside here, and then I have a hoodie on underneath of it, and it seems to work pretty well so far, but it hasn't dropped below 0 degrees Fahrenheit yet this year, so it's not too bad. But my bear coat, it's like dark brown and it's like a canvas on the outside, but I was welding in it and I got some like welding wire or some like flashing in between the outer layer and the inner layer, and it burned through. So now I have welding holes all up in the sleeves of my Carhartt. It's like, that's what I get for only wearing one welding glove, you know? I should have just like put both of my gloves on. But my gloves, they don't make them for my size. Like even the medium ones are too big for me. So it's a lot easier for me on the trigger hand or the gun hand to not wear a glove. I went to the outlet in summer and bought a few Carhartt vests and 1 pair of overalls. I think 30 for the vest and 50 for the overalls. That's not bad. That's a pretty good deal. Speaking of oopsies, do you want to have a burn treatment first aid kit in the shop? I don't have one in the shop, technically, but my shop is like 10 feet away from my house. So all I have to do is, the burn kit is about 30 feet away from me. So while it's not literally in this shop, like the first aid kit anyway, it's not that far away. What I do have in the shop are fire extinguishers. Those need to be at hand and reachable at any time. So I do have fire extinguishers. I just don't have like burn kit. And I do have a bucket of water. How big is my shop? It is a single car garage. So it's probably 15 by 20-ish. Hopefully you got that before the ad started, but maybe not. I should add a fire blanket. I have like a welding blanket, but it's not really a fire blanket. I need one of the ones that you can like smother fires or, like fires with. I hear there's a couple of them that you can buy that you can actually smother like grease fires with. I need one of those. I do need a fire blanket though. Grease fires are so bad. Like you can't, and it's the worst because the first thing that I always think of when I see a fire is put it out with water, right? And if you do that with a grease fire, you're gonna make it worse, and it's just gonna like pop everywhere, and you're gonna do way more damage. So that's why with grease fires, they or in kitchens like industrial ones, they always have those like foam fire suppression systems. So yeah, I do need a fire blanket, but I don't have one in the shop right now. Hey, paleontologist. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. Walmart has those work coats and they look just like Carhartts. I forget the brand, but they're really good. That's good. I have seen a couple knockoff ones at Walmart. I've never tried them. I did actually get this hoodie, this black hoodie I have underneath of my flannel at Walmart because it had the lowest synthetic count and the highest cotton count of any of the hoodies that I was able to find. I went to like so many stores to find a hoodie that was 100% cotton because like my last hoodie was 100% cotton. You can't find them anymore. Sprinkle baking soda on a grease fire and starves itself. Kitchen extinguishers. I missed the rest of that. Meanwhile, they recommend against fire blankets, I heard, because if used wrongly, they can get soaked with burning oil and make things worse. I mean, like I said, most of the grease fires I've been involved with, there was like the fire or suppression system. Or I guess there was only one grease fire I've ever like actually like been involved with, and it was really small, and I was able to like scoop the fire out of the grease and deposit it in a place where it was not going to do any harm, so it was fine. Yes, the coats are a different brand. When an oil container catches fire, I just move everything out of the way and let it burn out. I may throw one of my fire blankets over it, but it will burn through them. Yeah, it always depends on the size of the fire, As you can tell, I'm not amazingly afraid of fire, as long as it's relatively under control, I can deal with it. When it gets out of control, then we have issues. But I'm pretty good at keeping them under control. All right, let's do another heat. Goodness gracious. Keep doing that. Dropping. I got the dropsies today. Why do you turn it halfway in, or half turn it between hits? Okay, so the reason I turn it halfway between hits is because if I'm holding the, like, I know this is a really extreme angle to be holding it at, but if I am holding my punch at an angle, then I can correct it by doing half turns every other hit. So then the angle will correct itself as I go through, right? So if I just did the entire thing in just like with it just sitting there, and if I was holding my punch at an angle, we would get an angled hole, and I want it to be nice and straight and true. So that's why I flip it after every hit. Yeah, you can definitely smother a fire with sand. That's what we used to use when we were casting. So if ever there was a fire because the molten metal poured out of the mold, we would throw sand on it and it would smother it out. It'd be it glasses up, but it'll smother the fire really nicely. I have great respect of hot oil. Boiling water can hurt, but unless you are very unlucky, the damage is kind of limited and it does not catch on fire. Hot oil, on the other hand, yeah, that is so true. Hot oil will stick to you, and you can't even rinse it off in water because water and oil, they like repel each other. How about a bit redeem? Ever increasing to cause Ray to use a smaller tool just for the amusement of the stream. Need that drop? Oh, do I need a drop counter? Is that what you guys are telling me? I think I missed something. Ooh, stream idea. Perfect or purposely safety set up a few possible fire or shop fires you might come across. Ooh, that would be a good video. Need a drop counter today. Okay, I did miss it. I'm sorry I missed that one. That would be fun, using a smaller tool. It would be kind of annoying though. But I mean, we could even go something so small as like this, right? I don't think we'd make any progress with this guy, but I do have tiny hammers that we could go with. Well, a lot of fires can be put out with sand. Basically all fires, except magma, I guess. I do drop things a lot though. Like, yeah. It's because I should probably put things back in the fire like 2 hammer blows before I tend to do so. Just because I'm feeling a little bit like, I don't know. I just want to keep going. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I've got lots and lots of different hammers. I've got something like mid-size. I got teeny. I got this guy. A bit redeem for a smaller tool, like 5 minutes or something. Just a silly idea. Ting, 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 hours later. Yeah, so part of the reason that I don't do like crazy bit redeems is because number one, I'm not really a performing monkey, right? So my partner's like, you are not a performing monkey. You should not do the little dances and that kind of stuff. And so I kind of agree a little bit, and partially because sometimes those can be a little bit distracting. And I want this to be more like, I want it to be an interaction between you guys and me, the community at large and I. but I also want it to be as close to like watching a show as possible. So I mean, I could add more redeems. I just don't know that I have come up with one that I think is appropriate or like amazingly appropriate. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too snooty about my redeems. You guys will have to let me know. Do not forget to drink, right? Man, those days during the summer, I was drinking so much that I was about to pee my pants by the end of the stream. I had to like turn off the stream and then just like run. There's no need for you to dance for us. I'm happy just to learn and hang out. So how's the hole coming? It's slowly. It's coming slowly. I think part of it is that I'm afraid to go whole hog on my forging blows because I'm afraid that I will, when I do the full on, like, that I'll move the punch at the same time. So maybe I'm not hammering as hard as I could. I don't know. It's a small crater currently. It is. That's pretty much what it is. It is ready for another heat though. So let's do that. It is relatively even on both sides. But we haven't gotten to the point yet where the punch could get stuck. So, I've got a little bit of time left. I don't know what direction that went. I'm just going to put it back in the forge. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to take a look at it and see which one is the right size. Okay. That one's a little bit deeper than that one, I think. We'll go with this side. I've had days in summer that I drink multiple gallons of water and I never had to pee. All my tractors have a toilet installed though, behind the right rear tire. That's actually ingenious, So when we were looking into setting up the van, like the travel van for, camping and going to events, we looked up different toilets that we could bring, like the portable camper toilets. So we ended up with a composting toilet that takes like little bags, and then there's like these little packets of stuff that you put in there to make sure it's supposed to make sure it doesn't smell. I've never used it. I would prefer it to be like an emergency only thing, but it's there. Also, why the right tire? I don't know. That would be there is no toilet. I was just being irritating. Oh. So like if you dug a hole, that makes sense. But yeah. I get out of my tractors. That's why I like camping at Quad State. Showers in a bathroom, right? So we had the emergency toilet, but we definitely used the campground toilets. It's a lot more convenient that way. Now, most of the places that we go camping, there are bathrooms, like, that we can get to, and I wouldn't have to use the emergency toilet. But sometimes in the middle of the night, places close, and so then we have to have something in case there's like an emergency. But I like the setup of Quad State. Now, this year we actually were pretty far out, so it was a pretty long walk to get from our campsite to the toilets. I think next year we'll probably try and get there a little bit earlier so we can get a little closer. But I mean, yes, there's always digging a hole. But yeah, I drink a lot. The reason that I drink a lot, or as much as I do, is because as I'm talking, my throat tends to dry out. And it's just a habit from being an actor. When I was growing up, I did a lot of like plays and stuff. So, I was on a camping vacation when I was 10 years old, and it satisfied my need for camping for about one lifetime. I mean, some people don't like camping. It's not for everyone, and that's respectable. All right, let's do another heat. I think I'm going to change the camera angle after this one, though. All right, well, I guess we'll turn it that way this time. We've got a little bit of a bow going on. All right, back in the heat. I don't want to drop it this time. All right, there we go. And I think we're going to go to the opposite side of the anvil again. Because I think that's a pretty decent space. Nah, I think we'll go back here. But yes, on the opposite side of the anvil, just not inside the door jamb like I was originally going to do. There we go. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to see. I really love nature from a distance through a sufficiently thick glass plane, right? Some days it'd be like that. My grandpa had a farm, so I got to play outside quite a bit. And I also used to go camping a couple times a year when I was growing up because, it was a relatively cheap vacation. And I thought it was fun. However, these days, I don't think I want to do any tent camping anymore. I think the van is sufficient for camping, but I definitely don't. I like the comforts of home. Like in the van, I can have a computer. I can have a real bed. I can have a seat. It's warm, usually, or cool, one or the other, So I definitely appreciate my creature comforts, and maybe that makes me spoiled. But it's all right. I don't mind being spoiled or admitting that I'm spoiled. Been wearing lots of headphones recently, and so they start like pressing in after a while, you know? All right, let's do another heat. We're about halfway through the stream. Hopefully we can get a little bit more work in. I don't necessarily know that we're halfway through the piece yet. Whew. I'm getting warm in this flannel, unfortunately. All right, this side this time. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to lose the flannel. It's like, it's comfortable until I start hammering. And then when I start hammering, that's when I start getting warm. It's uncomfortable when I'm hammering, but when I'm not hammering, I am comfortable. So I feel like it's one of those things where there's some coats, like I think Columbia does them, where they have like little zippers in the armpits so that you can stay warm while you're active and, like, you know, air out your armpits. I feel like maybe I need that. According to my parents, there must have been a short time when I liked to play in the mud as a little kid. But that was about it with playing outside and enjoying the elements. Apart from that, I was an inside kid and grew up as an inside adult. See, I'm an inside adult as well. I spend all of my free time playing video games on the computer. I have a very active job and hobby, you know, blacksmithing, but then when I'm not doing that, I just want to be in the house and I want to play my video games because they're my video games. I get to be other people, you know? It's fun. All right, well, I am done with this guy. So I will be right back. I'm going to go and grab a Gatorade out of the hallway out here. Blue. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go through. This is a brand new thing of Gatorade, and it's blue, differenty blue, and red. And I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up going through them one color at a time. Maybe you could do a video game stream sometime when you don't feel up to being in the shop. I mean, according to my bio, I do game on this channel, but I think I've only actually gamed like one time, and that was before I started blacksmithing. And I don't think I've ever done it again. I do have a second channel on Twitch that the goal was to, once I got this channel on farm, that I would do some gaming on that channel, but I haven't done that yet either. When working from home, switching from job to free time means switching the displays, mouse and keyboard from work laptop to my private PC, right? See, I have the disadvantage that I do have a work laptop and a personal PC, but my personal PC is faster for the purposes of editing. So I always end up editing all my videos on my personal PC. So it's like if I'm doing like a Tuesday, Thursday edit day, I'm just sitting at my computer all day. But I mean, when I'm off doing other things, I use the laptop, you know. Speaking of bios, I ran across you on Wikipedia. Your middle name is Lynn. They have the butler's full name on there too. Do they? Do I actually have a Wikipedia? I don't think I'm important enough to have a Wikipedia. JK. Right? I mean, one of these days when I get famous, you guys will have to give me one, but you know. All right. I got an ad break notification pop-up thingamajigger. So I'm going to try and do one more heat before that ad starts. Hey, 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 hey. Because you're not being a fun little piece of steel. Now, are you? Dropping out of the forge instead of off of the anvil. Not cool. Not cool. See? That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you're supposed to drop. Alrighty. We're getting there. We're getting there. I think we're about, I'd say about 5 to 7 millimeters on both sides. At least. They're little dents. So your last name is on Woodward, but you have never sung on stream. And you, since the fought was taken, you have gotten a lot less blonde. I used to be a blonde. So I guess I have gotten a lot less blonde over the years. When I was a kid, I had like the platinumous blonde hair. Or I guess maybe it was goldenrod blonde. And then everybody's like, oh, you have dirty blonde hair. But no, it's brown. These days it's brown. I'm gonna assume though that is a reference to like a song or a poem. Ooh, itchy. Maybe I need to clean my headphones. So we have an ad coming in any minute now, or I guess any second now. So that's good because the steel is heating. I can't even do a heat right now. There's a country singer, Rachel Lynn Woodward, or Ray Lynn. Never heard of her before. I see. Yeah, I've never heard of her before either. I mean, if you guys go to my Facebook, you'll see what my last name is. Which now you guys have my full name, so that's probably a bad thing. But I'm not amazingly like hiding or anything. I would very much prefer that you not show up on my doorstep or anything, but you know. Morning, Lexi. Hope you're not in ad purgatory. Morning, morning. Slowly going through this hole. Let me check this camera. Man, ever since I broke the handle off the crank on this guy, this tripod, it's obnoxious to put the angle up and down. There we go. Oh, goodness gracious. It is a day. I'm super glad that it's Friday. I definitely need the rest, except for that I'm not getting much in the way of rest this weekend. I'm going to be doing some jingle bells this weekend, but we are going to do with thicker sheet steel. So hopefully they'll be a little less crinkly and they'll sound a little bit better. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, just out of ads. What did I miss this morning? Right now we're just punching in the hole on our raising hammer. We're not terribly far through it, but we've probably got, I don't know, between 5 and 7 millimeters deep so far. I don't know that we're like a full, well, I don't know, maybe we're close to a full centimeter on both sides. I've been like flipping it so that they meet in the middle. We're definitely not to the point where we could like get the punch stuck. Born in 1994, no offense, but you might be a tad older than that. I am just a tad, a little bit older than that. Something like 8 years. I'm not a big country fan anymore, though. You know, I know that Taylor Swift used to be a country artist, but I didn't really like her during her country era, you know? She had to become a pop princess for me to like her. I think we're a little deeper than I thought we were. Starting to bend a little bit as we're going, so it's definitely important that we flip our stock every heat so we can make sure that it ends up straight in the end. I was never in the US so far, still on my bucket list, but then again, no offense, showing up at your doorstep is maybe not the first thing to do eventually, or when eventually flying over. Yeah, probably not. There's a lot of other things or other places that would be more entertaining and more interesting than showing up at my door. But then again, I mean, there are a lot of other places that I think that would be more fun to visit, you know, than maybe the US. But then I live here, so, you know. It's always been a dream of mine to get over to Europe. There are some amazing art pieces in all over the place. I mean, yeah, in Rome, in Italy, but like some of the stuff in like Belgium and the Netherlands, and there's some really great northern masters as well. That I actually, when I went and studied art history, I actually studied the northern masters, like the northern Renaissance, as opposed to like the Mediterranean Renaissance. So I would love to see like some of those masters. And it would be cool to go to Asia at some point. I don't necessarily think that I would be very good at going to like Japan or China for a very long time, because a lot of their diet consists of like fish. But like, because I don't like fish. But it would be interesting to see like the cultural differences and stuff. There are so many media from the U.S. which are famous here. I want to get there once. I mean, that makes sense. We are very famous for our media. But a lot of what's actually portrayed in our media isn't exactly how things are. And I mean, I think that people realize that at least a little bit, but some of it is. Like, I've heard that yellow school buses are kind of weird to people from Europe. And I mean, yellow school buses are like all over here. That's a real thing. On the other hand, I was to Rome more than once, I think. Belgium is right around the corner, and I have relatives there, so nothing special. See, like I said, it's all a matter of perspective, right? I don't think the U.S. is amazingly like, ooh, it's on my bucket list to get there because I live here, right? But Europe, I would love to get to Europe. I mean, there are still places in the United States I'd like to see. Like, I really haven't done much on the East Coast. I haven't done anything on the West Coast. So it'd be cool to visit those places, but, I think it would be cooler to get to Asia or Europe or South America or even Africa. Some of those places would be so cool. All of the art and the animals and the culture. Australia would be nice to visit as well. So warm right now. Back in the heat. Ah! As I go, I can see that the hole is starting to shift that direction. I need to correct that as much as possible on both sides. So I need to be careful. Yeah, but how long is the flight to Australia? I don't know. I'll have to ask Lexi that one. I've had a few business trips to Asia from my last job. Yes, it's different, but not as different as I would have expected. Different cultures are not, in the end, humans are humans. I mean, that's totally true. There's a lot of people in the world, but everybody has a certain set of universal things you know, that, I mean, you gotta eat, you gotta, you know, you gotta have a house. We're a lot more alike than we think. Well, I went to my friend's knife shop to get a couple grinder belts to use for templates. Ended up buying their old 2x72 for $240. Just need some modifications to accept standard size tooling arms. Cool. New toys. Damn, never knew that smithing took this long to get a hole in. Why not a drill? So the reason that I am punching this instead of drilling this is because drilling is actually removing material, right? It's boring the material out and you lose that weight and that material, right? By punching, what I'm actually doing is I am moving the material out of the way. So you can kind of see as the hole is formed, it's pushing, you're getting like curves on the edges, and because it is pushing the material out of the way. So when those two holes meet in the middle, there's going to be this thin little like plug, is what we like to call it, and we'll just knock that out of the way, shear it off, and it'll be like this tiny, tiny little thing. So you can drill the hole, but you'll lose a lot of material. Whereas if you punch that hole, you're going to keep all of your weight and all of your steel, or like less of your steel goes to waste, I guess. It was 22 hours Dallas to Sydney. Ugh. It's the longest flight in the world. I can imagine. That does seem like quite a long flight. And I mean, they'd have to have fed you. Most of the flights that I've been on, they're like, we don't even feed you anymore. They give you like nuts or like a cookie, and that's about it. I think my longest flight, though, was like 4 hours. 797, she's not hitting hard and trying to get more accurate strikes. Yes, that is also very true. If I had a buddy or a power hammer, if I was using the press, if I was braver, I could get through this material a lot faster. Alex Steele, who is a YouTube blacksmith, he actually has a press and he has a little die on his press, and all he's got to do is like just bring the die down on one side and then on the other side, and it pops it right through. It's like a 5-minute process. It's insane. I'm just kind of like dragging my feet about this a little bit. Would it be quicker to use the press to punch the drift in? Yes. However, the last time I did that, I almost broke the handle off the drift, and so that's why we're doing it by hand this time. The hammer is really thin, so I didn't think it would take as long. When we did the drift for the axe head, I did drill a hole, and that's why that one didn't take as long. So I'm kind of experimenting a little bit. There are other ways I can do this to speed it up, but this is what I decided to do this time. I don't have to do it this way, and if we don't get all the way through by the time the stream ends, I might just drill it so that on Monday it'll go through like that. But, you know, it's so satisfying getting an even slug after center punching a hole. Yes, it definitely is. See, this one, I need to correct it a little bit. It's starting to veer off in one direction, so I'm not entirely sure I'll get a smooth plug this time. But I'm going to see if I can't correct it a little bit. The flights to Asia were longer. Back then, we got to fly business class. Those were better times for the German automotive industry back then. There was a lot of food, and it was not bad. I've heard business class is pretty bougie, but not quite as good as first class, you know? Yeah, Quintus even gave us a meal on my flights between Darwin and Perth, and it's only like 5 hours. Not a fan of airplane food, though. I've never actually been on a flight that gave me a meal, right? Like I said, I've only ever had like peanuts or cookies. But then I've never actually, or I've only flown like 4 or 5 times. No, more times than I think. I went to South Carolina twice, and we flew there and back both times. I went to Florida once, and I flew there and back. And when I went to Ohio, and I know this sounds ridiculous since I drove to Ohio, I went to Ohio for gem setting class, and I flew between St. Louis and, or like Lambert and like Cincinnati. So I guess that's what, like 4 trips, 8 flights. What size raising hammer am I making? So in the end, it's going to be about 1 pound. It is, or like the block right now weighs a little bit more, but you know, I'm going to lose some to scale. I'm also going to lose some to grinding. So the goal is to end up with a 1 pound hammer at the end. My Mac flight to Germany was 30 years ago, and I was on a DC-10, flew to Germany or Italy from Germany on a C-130 though. I've actually flown on some larger planes, but also some smaller planes. I like the larger ones better because turbulence isn't as bad. Completely missed. That was awesome. Drop forging. Drop forging. One of these days, guys. One of these days. All right, I think we're all right. I think we can put this back in the forge. So I barely tipped the punch there, but I actually like got my leg a little bit. However, I have a multi-tool in my pocket, and that took the brunt of the hammer blow, so I didn't feel it that bad. Gravity check successful, right? First class looked even nicer, but they were not that good at times for the automotive industry. Emirates has different lounges for economy, business, and first class in Dubai, all with their own gates, so the higher class passengers don't have to mix with the common people, right? Oop, there goes gravity. All right, let me check my camera again just to make sure that I didn't. Oh, we've only been doing, but that's all right. I do need to like change the view a little bit every so often so that it's interesting when I do the overview videos. And you guys get to see different things as we go. Make sure that everything's in focus. I know. I honestly, I do this for myself. You guys could care less. But I care. I like the angle on that punch. Do you reckon a hold fast would be useful here, or is the material too unwieldy to be helpful? Really the reason is because I'm turning it a half turn after every hammer blow. And if I was doing that with a hold fast, it would take a lot of time to reposition the hold down every single time. So because I am flipping it 180 degrees after each hit, I'm just doing it regularly, like, you know, on the forge. If I was not concerned about keeping it somewhat even and being able to correct it easily, then I would put the hold fast down. And I did when I was making the axe. So it could be helpful, but you know, it's also inconvenient in a way. Aye, fair enough. Yes. So, I mean, there's a method to my madness and a madness to my method. And sometimes that madness is so totally wrong. But that's why I have lovely people who come in and give me advice, you know? Like John and Lexi and sometimes Corwin and Jack. I could be mistaken, but a long time since April of 95, but I was a civilian airframe of a KC-135 in my head. That was a DC-10. I don't know. When I see DC, I'm going to assume that those are airplane types, but I see DC-10 and I'm like, ooh, Dungeons and Dragons. I guess I got to roll above a 10. That's normally not that hard. Greater than a 50% shot, usually, if you've got any bonuses at all. But like I said, I'm going to assume that those are actually like airplane types. That seems like what you guys are talking about. All right. Let's do another heat. Lots of heats, lots of heats. All right. We're getting closer and closer into that center area, and that's why things are starting to bend as we go. We are probably a little more than halfway through the tip to tip. But because I have a tapered punch, the edges are a lot less close, if that makes sense. Man, I'm starting to get worn out. I'm not used to doing this much like heavy hand forging. I usually use the press for like the stuff that I have to actually do a full blow on. And I'm not even doing like a full blow on it. The DC-10 was a model by McDonnell Douglas, later bought by Boeing. I think their last model was MD-11. Okay, that makes sense. Boeing had been for a while like gobbling up a lot of like the smaller airplane manufacturers for a while. Now Boeing is in a little bit of trouble. Their parts are falling out midair. So we actually have a Boeing factory in St. Louis. So it's within an hour of where we are, or where I am right now. But yeah, so they've actually been firing a whole bunch of people. if they even put in the parts, right? Corwin used to be a big aviation nerd. Cool. See, you know, I've met train nerds, I've met Pokemon nerds, I've met nerds of all types, but I don't know that I've ever met an aviation nerd. So, you know, go ahead and talk to us about that at some point, you know? When I'm buried that deep, I'll give it 2 or 3 hits between flips. You've already gone deep enough to orient the path of the punch. All right. I will keep that in mind. We'll do that. Yankee says, as a carpenter, when someone leaves out a screw on a door, it's bad enough. I know, right? You could say they flew under your radar. On a plane, to leave off screws on doors is, well, it's bad. Yes, it's so bad. And dangerous, man. Man. I don't know. I did actually know an engineer that worked at Boeing for a while, and he retired like many years ago. He was in my glass class. He taught me all about slumping glass, which is taking glass panes of glass and putting them through a kiln process that would make them kind of like melt and slump down. It's a pretty cool process. We're a little on the cold side, but I want to beat this ad. Or I can tip the... Whew. Gross. Ooh. Problematic. All right. Okay. We got to do a little bit of correction because some stuff is going on. I got to show it to you. Okay. So when I started this piece, there was a little bit of a crack right here. And you guys might be able to see it right there. It was not deep. And I don't mind that it wasn't that deep. But there's another one forming right next to it, right? And it might just be because this wall is a little bit on the thin side. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to get out the angle grinder. And we're going to grind that down so that that crack doesn't get any worse. So we're going to be grinding this entire flat side. We've got the material to do it. So I just want to correct that to make sure that it doesn't rip all the way through. All right. As I drop other things. Okay, where did my angle grinder go? Here's my angle grinder. Now I gotta grab a disc for it. Whoops, I'm a dummy. Okay, I need these two. Those will go there. And I apologize. I'm probably going to miss a couple of your posts as I'm trying to set this up. Because I want to get this done really quickly. Okie doke. Open this guy up. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, it went right there. That's all right. I'll use these. Yeah, there's a little bit of a rip in there. And I think there's an ad break going on. So I'm going to set this guy up. Or you could pull a me and keep working till it cracks and start over. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I've already put way too much work into this. We're going to get rid of the crack. So we have the material, because we have the material, that's why I want to correct it, right? I left us some extra material on all four sides because I knew that I was going to want it to be really nice and straight, and I was going to be doing a lot of grinding on it. So we've got the material, and it's a really shallow crack. So it's going to be better to deal with that now. All right, okay, so it is close enough on that side. And the next thing that we're going to do is reposition cameras, because I don't think you guys can see the area right there. So I'm going to bring this guy over here. There it went. I was like, where the heck did my stuff go? Okay. So there's that one, and I kind of gave myself a little bit of a, there we go. I think we're all right. Goodness gracious, guys. Apologies. I'm tripping over things. We're going to move that guy over here a little bit. And now, put those there. So I could put on my mask. Okie doke. All right, so we've gotten rid of the crack on the one side, but as a result, this area over here is a little bit thicker than this area. So either we're going to need to hammer that back, or we're going to need to grind it back. And I think we're going to hammer it back when we get that far. But I think we're going to be doing all right. I think I've got it. I've got the crack taken care of. So back in the heat. All right. Up to now, it is only an ad crack, right? I mean, it was really, really thin, but a second one started. I wasn't worried about the crack to begin with, but after the second one started to rip, I feel like I needed to correct it. For some reason, I've been trying this one style bell, and I've broken it off 3 times in a row. I'm going to get it Sunday, or I'll keep going till I do. That's the spirit, you know? Just curious as to why the fuller shape punch. I've always cut mine at a diamond point to facilitate faster punch through onto the drift. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Honest to God, I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to restoring a drift. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to drifting tools. So I saw that Alex Steele had a point on his drift, and I thought that it would be convenient to use the point and the punch, or like to, catch the punch, like the center punch, I guess. So yeah, it's probably not the best, but it is what I thought would work. So if you've got suggestions, I am always up for good advice. So please, let me know if there's something that would be better for me. I wonder if that crack is going to open back up. It shouldn't, though. See, I don't think it will open back up as long as I got rid of it all the way. There might still be like a little bit of a hairline fracture in there. But I'm hoping that there isn't. Hey, Chris. Welcome in, welcome in. We are getting pretty close to the end of the stream. I'll probably go a little bit longer. But I don't think we're going to get all the way through today, unfortunately. I think with that crack and how lightly I've been tapping things today, I just don't think it's going to happen all the way through today. So hopefully I get back to it on Monday and we can get it all the way through. That's the goal anyway. Because we got to heat it all the way back up. Y'all know it must be a tad chilly if fully wrapped up in a smithy, right? So I'm actually starting to get a little bit on the warm side. But when I came out here, it was like in the 30s Fahrenheit. So, you know, I could definitely take off this outer layer because I've got 3 layers on. I've got this layer, and then I've got a hoodie on, or like a lighter hoodie. And then, you know, I've got my t-shirt on underneath of that. And it would be more comfortable for me to take the outer layer off. However, we're not that far from the end of the stream, and I have the microphone transmitter in the pocket of this sweatshirt, and I don't want to move it. Because I don't know what I'm doing. That's awesome, Sandwich. Thank you for clipping that. But yes, that is the reason why I have my punch the way I have it, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I try to make it seem like I know what I'm doing, and I feel like I do a good enough job that every once in a while on YouTube I get comments about how I should be humble. However, yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing. That face was hilarious, yeah. I try. I pretend, you know, that I know what I'm doing, but when everything is said and done, I'm really a beginner, to be honest. I've only really had in-person, like, instruction, like, probably 3 weeks in the 10 years that I've been smithing. Everything else is just like what I have gleaned from videos, and there's so much that you just can't see from just videos. I try to give you as many like angles as possible so that maybe you guys can see a little bit better, but I'm just I'm just like, you know, I'm a journeyman jeweler. I'm actually pretty good at silversmithing. But blacksmithing, I'm definitely a beginner. Let's say you are much better in blacksmithing than me. Not much of a compliment, but good enough for me, right? See, I know a lot. I have a lot of brain knowledge about it, but I don't have nearly as much practice, like practical practice. But that's why I take you guys with me when I go to blacksmithing conferences, so that I can be like, here, this is a place that you can go and learn better than here. Thriveden, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. I will plug John. Knott's hubby is an amazing blacksmith. And he streams up on YouTube. And as John, no, I didn't. John, did you see that Rob Hugh won a mill from Holland Anvil auction for 55? Ooh. But yeah, Knott's hubby is an amazing smith, and you should go and watch his streams on Sundays on YouTube. I wish I could, you know, I could link you directly from my channel to his, but yeah, much better smith than me. But thank you guys for watching me anyway. It must be more entertaining, you know, or somewhat entertaining to watch me fumble through this. All right, I'm going to move this camera, and then we're going to do another heat. But yeah. Start here and then find better smiths. You can go to Abana's website, and they have a find an affiliate page. They also have a find a blacksmith page. Those are probably your best bets for finding a master blacksmith. If you get lucky, you can watch me mess up a third bell. Hey, Corwin, I do see your test. Have you been trying to talk? And a fourth. I mean, when you're first learning a new project, it's hard. There are always things that you didn't think that were going to happen, you know, just unexpected problems that pop up. I had a glitch and the chat isn't refreshing. Ooh, that's always annoying. It happens to me sometimes too. But I try. All right, let's see how this works now. Now that we don't have a crack in it. Or I could just chip it again. Now that one hurt. That one's probably a strike. I just got myself in the thigh. There we go. As I drop everything. Ugh. I'm blaming it on Kevin Steele he brought to Quad State. Restarted the app, so it should work now. Awesome. Well, I'm glad it's working for you now. All right, well, I think I'm going to do a couple more heats, and then I will probably end the stream. Like I said, I don't know that we're going to get all the way through today. I just, you know, I'm not amazingly good at this part. Things will get better. I'll get better as I continue to practice, but yeah. It's as if I Love Lucy was a blacksmith. All of the drops, right? Maybe I'll take all of the drops and turn them into a montage this time. I keep telling you guys I'll do a drop montage, and I never do it. This one has a lot of drops, though. Specifically today has a lot of drops. So maybe I will try and come up with a good montage of today's dropsies. Maybe I'll do it for shorts next week. You have to sync it up to music. Like the Benny Hill theme. What do you guys think? A decoupage had to be said with a French accent, though. Drop age. Yes, that, definitely. If you call someone a master blacksmith, is that understood as a statement about their certification, formal qualification, or how good the year or yar in their profession? Oh, they are at their profession. It depends. There are people that I would call master blacksmiths who don't have a formal education, but there are also people who have formal educations and are actually like qualified to be a master blacksmith. In fact, Abana actually has a 3-level course. And while I don't necessarily know that I would say a level 3 Abana blacksmith is a master per se, but they're definitely a journeyman. So there are like somewhat education criteria that would make you a master blacksmith. But not everybody goes through that. So it's kind of subjective. So I don't know. Any of the other blacksmiths care to weigh in on what makes a master blacksmith? Shouldn't blacksmithing be like other apprentice type careers? I mean, in the past, I imagine it was. It definitely was in the past. But these days, since the, I'm going to say, blacksmith revival, and I mean, blacksmithing never completely went away, but it was really small for a while. And with Forge and Fire and some of the other things, it's just gotten bigger and bigger. There are ABS Master Bladesmiths in American Bladesmithing Society. Yes, but that is technically different. If someone introduces themselves as a master blacksmith, would that sound immodest? As a German, I would just hear it like someone who is stating that they have some degrees, like a Bachelor of Arts or something. Honestly, I feel like you'd be hard-pressed to hear a actual master blacksmith call themselves a master blacksmith. There are some seriously talented blacksmiths and accomplished blacksmiths who would never say that they're a master. Like, you know, like Ed and Brian would not say that they're master blacksmiths, but a lot of people would. Many other people, like John is like, I'm not a master blacksmith, but you know what? Some of the stuff that I've seen come out of your shop is incredible. I am not a great blacksmith. I just made a name for myself by winning a big prize at Quad State. See? It's one of those, like, you're never going to find someone who calls themselves a master blacksmith unless they're like, unless someone else says it and they just sort of adopt it. I feel like that's the kind of community we have. Only Jedi are arrogant enough to call themselves masters. You have an anvil. That is all the qualification I need. You are a smith. I'm not saying I'm not a smith. I'm just saying I'm not a master. Yup. You guys were talking about getting a new crack, and you know what? I think we might be developing one. Which means I didn't get all the way through the crack. You guys might not be able to see it, but there's like minor cracks here and here. So I think I'll probably end the stream here. And I will spend some time on the bench grinder to make sure that gets all the way out of there. We'll flatten it out so that it's not bowing back and forth, because that's not helping us either. And yeah, we shall be back on Monday. What if their last name is Masters, right? All right. Yeah, we got some more cracks. Master Smith is usually something people are called, not they call themselves. Exactly. Interesting. That's what was afraid of how it might sound to Americans. I will be back on Monday with a previously prepared specimen. Yes, I will. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Except Trent, just ask him and he will tell you how much of a master he is. Something like that. All right. You guys have an amazing rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I will be back streaming on Monday at 2:30 Eastern US time. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Do you guys have anybody that you'd like to raid? I always take suggestions, but we've got a few people on if you don't. All right. I think Miramac is probably where we're going to go today. If I can spell. There we go. Miramac Mudco, who is a potter. Alrighty. Corny is a good place to rate as well. But I do enjoy keeping it in the family and doing makers and crafters. Um, so thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.